Hey, Wolfpack. So we are going to try and learn neuroscience in about 5 minutes. Okay. So stick with me. So I have a picture of a brain, right? Or a drawing of the shape of a brain. I've added these dots, there are like 25, 30 of them. These are going to represent neurons. So we actually have a lot more than 25 to 30 neurons in our brains. In fact, we're born with about 100 billion neurons. Okay. So as a baby, we're born with 100 billion neurons, and for the rest of our lives, we make and strengthen connections between neurons. That's what learning is, okay? So in the simplest sense. So quick experiment, right? So I just put this word up on the left of the screen. It's probably new to most, if not everybody who's watching this. Okay, it's a Greek word, and the word is eudaimonia. Because it's brand new, we don't have any existing connections between our neurons here. Okay, but I'll bet this next word I flash will trigger connections for everybody, right? Mom. Okay, so now what's probably happening is we have some pretty solid and well-developed connections between neurons when we see or hear the word mom. And the reason is because mom is probably one of the first words we all learn. We know what mom means. We know who mom is. We could probably visually recognize mom, right? There's probably a representation of mom or a mom in our minds. And so we have all this knowledge associated with the word mom, right? Eudaimonia, on the other hand, we don't have any of these. We don't have any other knowledge associated with the word. We just see it as letters on a page or on a screen. Okay, so that connection is probably pretty weak because we just made it and we don't know a whole lot about it, whereas mom has meant something to us for years and years. Okay, but even though mom's an established connection and eudaimonia is just this really wimpy one, it doesn't have to stay this way, right? So simply seeing it and then knowing like, oh, it's pronounced eudaimonia, that builds my own connection of this word here, right? So we see that connection get a little bit longer. And if eudaimonia was something that interested you, you could go and read about it, and you would strengthen that connection even more and even more and even more and even more until it was just as strong as a connection as mom. So if you were to get that connection to be as strong as the ones that you have when you hear the word mom, you would know instantly when you hear or see the word what eudaimonia means. You would probably have some representation that came up in your mind. So like me, I know it was from Aristotle, so I picture an old statue guy, and so I have different associations with it. But they didn't exist. They had to be built and they had to be strengthened. Okay? So eventually when we get to like a really solid knowledge of a word or of a concept, we don't even have to think about what it means anymore because as soon as we hear it, that triggers all those connections in our mind between those neurons. Okay? So let's try a different example here, right? So a baby learning to walk. Okay? So you probably know walking involves a lot of smaller steps. So a baby has to learn to stand up first, and then it has to learn to balance its own weight, and then it has to learn how to push off of one foot and land with the next foot and then rotate. So it's kind of a lot that goes in there. Okay, so this connection is a little longer, but you can see it's still pretty weak. And so what's going to happen as a baby walks more and more and more is that connection is going to get stronger, stronger, and stronger, and stronger until walking isn't something the baby has to think about. It's just something the baby can do because they've built those connections and they don't have to think about it as they do it. Same thing with the word mom. We don't have to think about what moms mean because we have that connection established in our minds. Okay? So just a quick recap. These are neurons. In the simplest sense, learning is one of three things, and it involves the neurons in the brain. Okay? So making new connections, that's learning, and it involves the neurons in the brain. Another type of learning is strengthening existing connections. So like eudaimonia, a baby learning to walk, the more we practice, the stronger that connection gets, the less we have to think about it. Okay, and then the other one is building on existing connections. So think of the baby who knew how to stand up first, but then had to add steps to it. And so if we have our set of connections here, maybe this is what it takes to stand up, building on that connection would strengthen it and build outwards. Okay.